Hey everyone, it's Colin, and today I have the chance to review the VanPowers CityVanture electric bike. As you can see here, I'm going to unbox it, go over a step-by-step tutorial on how to assemble it, go over the different functions, test ride it, and give you a review. I'm really excited about this e-bike because of the very unique Mortise and Tenon joint inspired frame. That means that all of these parts that you see here were actually disassembled. I had to put them together myself, which I enjoyed doing. If that's not something for you, you can also pay them $90 to assemble it in the factory. It also has a carbon drive belt, which is very cool. There's also an integrated 36 volt, 7 amp hour LG battery in this down tube, which is very sleek. Back here, we have a 350 watt all-in-one rear hub, which means that there's the motor here, there's the sensor, and there's also the controller. And overall, this bike is very lightweight. It's only 34 pounds. In case you're wondering, it has a max speed of up to 25 miles per hour and a max range of 50 miles with pedal assist. For more specs, pricing, and discounts, check out the description section below. Please like this video if you find it helpful. Please leave a comment if you have any questions, and please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this. So without further ado, let's get this unboxed. This is the box that it came in. It's definitely a lot smaller than the other e-bikes that I received, probably because the frame needs to be assembled. So this is about the size of a wheel. I'm curious to see what it looks like inside. This is the front of the box. I'll just rotate it around. This is the side, the back, the other side. This is the top. It has the list of all of the tools that are included. Looks like there's Allen keys, a Torx key, Phillips head screwdriver, and then combination wrenches. Let's get this unboxed. Looks like there's another box in this box. Inside the box was another box. This is the top lid. As you can see, there's an arrow that points upwards. I'm gonna take this off. We had this box up here. It says number 4, and I already cut it open. This appears to be the crank assembly. And then there's a piece of plastic on the back to protect it. This is the piece. I'm just going to set it aside. Looking over here, there's a picture of what the bike is supposed to look like. Here's a picture of what the bike is supposed to look like. And then it says, "You're awesome. CityVanture has passed 25 quality tests. Can't wait to see you. Enjoy your ride." Opening this up, we have the chainring. We have an accessories box. We have the wrenches, Phillips head screwdriver, the manual, the pedals, reflectors. This is the charger. And then in this white box, this is probably a bell for the handlebar. Behind this piece of foam, we have all of the Allen keys, some nuts. Looking at the papers, we have the instruction manual. This is the paper for the display. This is a warning. This is the installation for the Tektro disc brakes. Here's the manual in English. On the other side, it's in Spanish. It's actually 76 pages long. You can actually watch the video of me installing this per the manual if you don't want to see me flipping through all of these pages. But it's going to be here for your reference if you want to pause it anytime. Here's the first page, and the next page is pretty thick, but I realize it's actually multiple pages folded. So page number 2, this is the package contents. This is very interesting. Page 3, bike parts, accessory box, bike appendix, and then the contact. General warning on page 9. General warnings. Dimensions. Pre-assembly notice. Assembly guide. maintenance, service info, warranty terms, warranty exclusions. So that's the end of the manual. There is a belt, the fork. These look like brake levers. This is the tube that goes downwards with a seat post. And then these are numbered. So this is number 6 and there's number 20 inside. This is number 12. This is the belt, it's number 10. We have the wheel, the disc is already on. It has 2 plugs right here. And then on the back, it has the teeth for this drivetrain. Here we have, it's either the top or bottom tube, it's number 2. We have the handlebar and stem with the controller. This is number 13. Number 5, this is probably where the seat goes into, I believe is the front, number 1. This is number 18, not sure what it is yet, but we'll find out. Number 19 is the kickstand. Number 11 and 6, not sure what that is yet. Number 7, number 8. This is number 3, it's one of the tubes. And then there is a disc brake caliper with the handle on the other end. And then we have the seat. Lastly, we have, I think this is the front wheel with the disc already on, and it was protected with a piece of plastic on the bottom. I have everything laid out on the table. I have some tools on the side which you can't see, but I don't know if you can see the instructions right now because it might be too bright. You can reference when I flipped through the pages earlier, but I'm just going to read what it says and then you can follow along. So it says to have parts 1 through 11 in place as shown in figure 1. So we have number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the belt and 11 is right here. And then over here it says take part 20 out from part 6, which is the seat post, which I'll take out. And I'll set this aside. Point part 3A towards 1. So this is number 3, and where you see the lever, that's 3A, and this is 1, so I'm pointing it towards there. Bullet point C says point the arrow on part A towards part 1, which I've done here. And then D, point the arrows of part 9 and 11 towards part 5. So this is 9 and 11, and this is 5, which I'll put in over here in a second. Part 3A, 3-3A is the brake lever. So it says to connect part 1 and part 2. Make sure the charging port on port 1 faces you. So this is the charging port. We want to make sure that it's facing us, as shown in figure 2, which is down here. Thread part 2-2B with the cable tied through it through part 1-1B as shown in figure 3. And then leave the cable tie in place as it will be used further down the steps. So what we do is we thread this through. Let me get some slack here, and then I'll feed it through so it comes out through here. And then it says to pull out the cable spring from part 1 and then pair it with the charging cable on port 2, and you make sure that the 2 are connected. So there is a cable spring right here. We're going to pull this out and plug it in right here. So those are connected, and then we can install part 2 into part 1, but don't tighten the bolts yet. There we go. I figured it's kind of confusing talking about part A, 2Bs, so I'm just going to show you what you do. So you take this tube over here, you feed this through, and with the help of the cable tie, this, let me just pre-bend this upwards so it'll be easier to pull. So this, you need to fish it through here. And once you take it out of this tube, it says that you can cut the zip tie. But I'm not going to do that yet. Then you can feed this tube through, number one. And then make sure that this opening in the tube is parallel to the charging port, so it's flush like that. Coming down to part number 4, over here, we're going to take our 3mm Allen key and remove these 4 bolts. So once that's off, we'll take this cover off on the bottom. I was able to pry this off using this. It was on pretty tight. So let's set this aside. We're going to connect this bottom piece, number 4 to number 2, and we need to fish these cables out on the bottom. And do not tighten this yet. So these are the cables that we took out. Coming over here, it says to put in part number 6 into part number 5, which I've already done in the past. And it says to keep this tape on. I accidentally removed a little bit on, and you're supposed to push this in 30mm or about 1.8 inches up, because I think the intent is to clear this down here. And then we'll take this piece and put it into part number 4. It was getting a little difficult to push it through, so I'm loosening this bolt back here. And yeah, it seems to be going in smoother. I felt like it was getting a little hard to push this in here, so what I did was I actually rotated this piece on the bottom so I can get more leverage, and then I'll just rotating it back and forward in order to get this in here. So now that I have it in here, it says to connect number 6 with number 4, and you can see that it's hitting right now. So I'm actually going to rotate this upwards, so it's like this, and then rotate them both down at the same time so they can meet each other. And then this is that gap that they were talking about. So you would rotate number 5 back and forth downwards. I noticed that these 2 bolts were a little tight, so I loosened both of them, and this is rotating a lot more easier. I'm also putting my foot down on the frame, so it's holding it down, and then I can just rotate this back and forth. And it closed the gap right here. So that's why they told you to keep that plastic in place to protect the frame right there. So I think it seems pretty flush all around. With this front piece on the top, we can push this down to make sure that there's no gap on any of these connections. So you can push this down while twisting, and then it should fill in all the gaps. So I do not see a gap here, 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 or here. This is the tightening pattern. So there's the capital A, which is the lower one that's facing us, A, B, C, D, and then we'll tighten the back side, A, B, C, D. And it says when you do that, you might notice that the first one would be loose, and you might have to do this cycle 5 times, and then we'll tighten E last. We got to make sure that the logo lines up with the charging port, which lines up here, and then if you look at it from this angle, you want to make sure that this tube is straight as well. So I'm just going to start tightening things, and it says to make sure it's not less than 20 Newton meters. So that seems tight. Capital B is the top one. Capital C is the top one over here. And then capital D is the bottom one here. And then I'll tighten the ones on the other side. Then I'll check the ones down here. Yep, it's loose. So I'll just repeat this process a few times until it's fully tightened. About 4 times everything was tight, but I checked it on the 5th time just to make sure, and it was already tight. So the last one they say is to tighten this one, which is E. I'm going to take these off. There's actually 2 4mm Allen keys that we'll use to tighten them because there's spaces for both on the back, and I'll just set these aside for now. Number 7 is the left chainstay, and it's the one that's labeled number 7. We'll put this in over here, and then we'll put these back in as such. And it says just to put them in, but not to tighten them yet. We still have to put the belt on, so we don't want to tighten these yet. And then this is number 8. And we'll have these facing up here. We're going to take our belt and cross number 8 as such. I don't know if there's an orientation to this, but I'm going to put this carbon drive side facing upwards as such and put that right there. We'll take our 5mm Allen key and remove these 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually a part inside the frame that holds this bolt into place. Originally I thought I needed to use the combination wrench to hold it in place to loosen this, but you actually do not. Make sure that this nut does not slip. So right here, I'm gonna pull it so it stays in the frame as such. I'll install number 9 first. We have the arrow pointing upwards, and this indentation right here goes into the frame. I'm going to take the screw or bolt that we had and just start threading it in to hold it in place. And then on this side, we have the bolt that goes through seat stay, and then we're going to feed it through that bolt. At first it wasn't going through, but I can pull this upwards in order for it to actually go through, and this will go through that nut at the end. And we don't want to tighten it all the way yet. It might be easier to see here. So we'll take our bolt, put this through. We have number 11 with the arrow facing upwards, and then the same thing over here. And it's not fitting through, so I'll pull this upwards. Oops. The nut fell off and it was a little hard to put it back in, so I just loosened this. I backed it up a little and then put this back into place, and then I can tighten this back in. So these are in place. You don't need to tighten these yet. It says to tighten these for not less than 10 Newton meters with both 4mm Allen keys, which I've already done. So I've already done these 4, and then you can tighten these to no less than 20 Newton meters, which I will do now. In preparation for the next step, we're going to remove this zip tie right here that's holding 2 bearings. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. I do not want to do that yet. I'm actually going to take this headset, take this rubber cap off, take our 5mm Allen key, we'll loosen this, and all this stuff will come off. There is the cap, this piece of metal. You'll remove the spacer. I'll just put this in order on the table. Yeah, I'll just put this on the table. This you can discard, and then we're going to feed this into the headset. Right now I'm going to carefully remove this zip tie. And then keeping the bearing in place, I'm going to put the fork in, feeding it through both bearings. I have the fork on, and based on the pictures, it shows that the brake cable is on the inside. I'm going to put everything back in order. So after that, I have this silver piece, then I have this right here, and then we have our washers. I don't know if I need both. I'm going to put the handlebar in. Notice that it's too tight, so I need to loosen these. There's actually quite a bit of space here, so I think I can get rid of one of these washers. Yeah, that seems better. And then I'm going to tighten this so that there's no more gap. I don't want to do it too tight where it doesn't rotate anymore. Usually you would tighten these two after this, after centering the handlebar, but the instructions don't say that yet, so I'm not going to do that. I think after we install all the stuff on the handlebar, that's when we would tighten these two. I'm also going to put this piece of rubber back on the top. So this is the seat post, and here's the seat, and what I did was I just loosened it far enough where there's enough space where I can fit this in but not have to take everything off. So this just slides in, and then this lines up like that. You can also adjust how back and forward it is and the different angle, and once you have something that you like, and then you take your 6mm Allen key and then tighten everything. Usually I like to do this once the bike is fully assembled because I can adjust the angle when I'm sitting on it. So I just put this in for now. This is the bolts for J and F, and we'll tighten those later once we determine our seat height. We have the bike flipped upside down. We're going to take the crank and the chain ring and put this in place. So this needs to be 180 degrees. One needs to be up on the top and the other needs to be on the bottom. This is the square tapered one, so that slides in right there. And then we're going to take our crank bolt, and this goes in here, and it says to tighten it no less than 40 Newton meters. That seems pretty tight. Looking at this right here, we're over here, we get rid of this piece of cap. There's an end cap that we keep, a gasket that we keep, and then we discard this piece. And then on the other side, there's a washer that we keep, or they call it a gasket. We discard that circular piece, we keep this gasket, and then we keep the end cap. So I'm just gonna start pulling stuff off that we do not need. And then on the other side, we get rid of that piece of plastic ring. So it says to rotate this so it faces the rear, and then to turn these so that the dropout touches the frame, and it was adjusted in the factory by a professional, so we should probably trust that. Going to take the rear wheel. I've already taken these off. I want to make sure that this cable clears the frame, and then I'm going to install this rear wheel in the back as such. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to have this facing the rear. Take this washer, put it right here, and then we'll take our four R gasket bolts, the M4 by 12, and then you can screw these in right here. Take our Allen key and tighten these in. So I finished tightening these two on this side, and then I tighten the two on the other side as well. And then we'll take this end cap wrench that it came with and tighten these. Same thing on the other side. Okay, seems good. So this is the cable from the back motor. We're going to feed it through this hole right here and then pull the cables out on the other side. Once those are fed through, we're going to make the connections right here and the one right here. I'm going to feed this back into place as such. So number 18 is actually this cable cover. I've already done this, but we'll take that number 18 cable cover, put this over here, and then there's two Phillips head screws that are the smallest ones. We'll take our Phillips head screwdriver and then tighten these into place, and that conceals the cable. Coming back over here, we had our cover. We had those 4 screws that we'll just put back into place. Right now we're going to install the rear brake, so we'll take these screws off. There is a piece of plastic between the brake pads that we'll remove, and then we'll feed it over the disc. And I'm going to put these in place for now. We can always adjust these later. This is just adjusting the position of the caliper, and looking back here, we want to make sure that there is enough bite on the pad and the disc. Just based on what I'm looking at right now, this seems to be good, which I'm pushing it all the way towards the end. It may be different for you. There's videos online on how to adjust the brake pad caliper. Usually you would loosen these two right here, grab the brake lever, and then tighten these, and then when you release, it should be centered. So that's what I'll probably do later, but just for now, this seems to be good. I can do adjustments later, and it is not rubbing. Next, we're going to install the kickstand. So that goes right here. And the accessories, it comes with these screws with a washer, and this just goes here. We are going to install the front wheel. We'll take this off. We'll take the plastic out of the brake. We'll unscrew the quick release lever, so we'll turn this up and then turn this out counterclockwise. Putting the front wheel in, make sure that this disc goes in between the brake pads on the front wheel, and then we'll put the quick release lever back through and turn it clockwise. And if you make it too tight, you cannot close this, so we can back it off counterclockwise. And let me show you, I made it too loose on purpose. Now it's too loose. I'm going to have to turn it again, so it's still too loose. I found a point where it's not too loose and not too tight. I'm able to push this all the way down, and that will hold in place. Since I have the front wheel up, I can test the brake rubbing. So if you listen closely, you can hear it rubbing. So what I'm going to do is I'll loosen these 2 bolts so that this whole caliper moves. Just gonna press the brake lever down so it holds it in place, and then I'll tighten this again. Theoretically, this should hold the disc in between the brake pads, so when I release the tension on the brake lines, it will be centered. And I can tighten this with 2 hands to make sure that it's tight. And that's good. So let me check this again. And there's no more brake rubbing. Right now we're going to install the brake lever. For the US, the front brake lever goes on the left side and the rear goes on the right. We'll take our 3mm Allen key. There is a screw right here that you would loosen. There's also one right here that will loosen. And once that's loose, this should slide off. We'll then take the plastic off of our handlebar. We'll then slide this through. I'm going to put the grip back in place for now, just so I know where it's supposed to go. And then you can sit on top of the bike and adjust the angle of where you want this lever to be. Once you have that angle down, you can tighten it on the bottom with this screw. Then you'll tighten these two again on the grips to, it says between 2 to 3 Newton meters. And then in the accessory bag, there are handlebar caps that go on the end. They look like this, and you just pop that in right here. And there you go. We'll do the same thing on the other side. There's the 2 screws here that I loosened already. We'll push this outwards. We'll take the plastic off the brake lever and then install this with the logo on the top. It's a bit tight, so I need to loosen it. And then this slides into place. Putting the grip back in place. Let me tighten these screws first. Then we can put the end piece on, which I already started doing. That's in. And then we can adjust the angle of this. And once you have your desired angle, you can tighten it. Lastly, there's this green cable, and there's one coming out of the tube. We'll just connect these, and that's that. Came with a few size cable clips. Back here we have this C-looking one, which we'll put into place like that. Right here we have this other cable clip, and we have the small section pointing outwards. So this just feeds over the cables and then clips into place. I'm going to take the other end of the screwdriver and flip it so it's flat, and then I'm going to push this down while using my thumb to push it in. That finally goes in. If you haven't already, this is a good time to remove this zip tie. And be careful not to cut the cable. I've already done this. There's these 3 looking cable clips. One's actually bigger and one's smaller. So the bigger one I put on the brake cable, and then the small one I put on this smaller cable that goes to the controller. And then I was able to shift these around, so that's what it looks like. We're going to install the pedals. So if you look at these, one says WR and WL, so this is the right side. And for the right, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if we turn it right, it starts to get tighter. There's a point where it just starts spinning, so we'll take our wrench and then tighten this by hand. That's good. And then for the left side, this is actually lefty-tighty, righty-loosey, so it's the opposite. We'll turn it counterclockwise, or in the left direction, in order to tighten it. And then we'll take our wrench and get that snug. It says to make sure that the torque is 18 Newton meters. Right now we're going to adjust the handlebar angle. So I'm standing on the bike and I'm holding the frame down with my legs. I'm going to adjust the front wheel so it's straight with the frame, and then at the same time this is going to be 90 degrees or perpendicular. So if I were to look up here, this handlebar should be 90 degrees. Once it's where I like it, I can use this Allen key and tighten this down. So I'll do it here, and then I'll do it on the other side. The manual says you should tighten it at least 5 times, so that was the first time. Let me try tightening it again. And the manual says it should be 18 Newton meters, so that's 5. Lastly, it says to adjust the seat, so you can adjust the position and the angle. It says to have this parallel with the ground, and then you can tighten these 2 to 18 Newton meters. The next page is the maintenance schedule. It says to do the first inspection after 190 miles or after 15 hours of use or 3 months. The second inspection is after 1,250 miles or after 100 hours of operation or after a year, and then every subsequent inspection is 1,250 miles, 100 hours of operation, or every year. And it says whichever is earlier. It's not shown in the manual, but I decided to install the rear reflector. I also installed the front reflector and a bell. For those, you just use the Phillips head screwdriver to screw on. Looking at the controls, it's fairly simple. We have the up, down button and this power button. So in order to turn the controller on, we just press and hold the power button until this turns on. And then it shows the battery level, the speed and MPG. There is odometer, trip, and then the power assist level. So if I go down, power assist is off. It goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there is an option for a headlight, but I don't see one installed. If I press and hold the up button, this headlight button comes on, but as you can see on the wall, nothing is bright, which means the headlight is not installed. I don't know if there's an option to add one later. I pressed and held this for a few seconds and it turned off. Because the bike's on the table, I'm going to lift the rear wheel off. I'm going to press and hold the down button, and then the pedestrian or walk mode activates, and it provides assist up to 3.8 miles per hour. And if I let go, the speed slows down. There's an icon right here that you saw. If I press the power button, it goes to the max speed, which is 3.8, the average speed, which is 0 because I haven't gone anywhere, and then it goes back to the current speed. So to turn it off, you press and hold the power button and it turns off. I turned it back on. I don't see a thumb throttle. I think it's power assist only. Right now I have the rear wheel in the air and I'm just gonna go through all the power assist levels. At power assist level 0, when I'm pedaling, it doesn't provide any power assist. So I'm just gonna maintain the same level of effort the entire test. So I'm getting around 7 miles per hour. If I go to pedal assist 1, I'm getting 9 to 10 miles per hour. At power assist level 2, for the same effort, I'm getting 12 miles per hour. Pedal assist level 3, for the same effort, I'm getting 15.4 miles per hour. At pedal assist 4, I'm getting 19 miles per hour for the same level of effort. And then power assist 5, I'm getting 19.6 miles per hour for the same level of effort. So I'm just going to let that slow down by itself to 0. And in order to turn it off, I'll press and hold the power button. I'll do the same thing from a wider angle. So at pedal assist 0, there's no pedal assist. At pedal assist 1, it provides some effort. Pedal assist 2. Pedal assist 3. Pedal assist 4. Pedal assist 5. In terms of the battery, it says to charge it at least 4 hours the first 3 times to balance the battery. It also came with these set of instructions, so I'm just going to flip through it. In terms of charging, I believe the battery is actually built in this lower tube. There is a charging port behind this piece of rubber. This is the charger, and I'm going to plug it in there is one orientation that this plug can go into. I'm going to plug this in, and then taking the other end, I'm going to plug it in the outlet. This power brick turns red. When it's complete, it should turn green. So I'm going to leave it charging for at least 4 hours. And lastly, I'm going to peel all the stickers off because the bike is fully assembled and it gives it a cleaner look. The tires come deflated, so I need to inflate them. It says to inflate between 50 to 85 psi, so I'm going to inflate it to 80 psi because I like the lower rolling resistance. So right now it's at 80 psi, and I'm going to take this off. And then I'll do the same thing for the rear. So that is 80 psi, and it's good. Right now I'm going to test the VanPowers CityVanture e-bike. I'm going to go through all of the 5 power assist levels and then test the brakes. So right now I'm going to turn the bike on by pressing and holding the power button and starting at pedal assist 0. So starting at pedal assist 0, just pedaling. It feels like a normal bike, except there is a little bit more resistance. I would say there's about 10 to 15% more resistance than a regular single speed, and right now I'm getting around 8.3 miles per hour. Now I'm at 9.3. So going to pedal assist 1, I don't feel any power kick in. That's possibly due to the fact that pedal assist 1 might top out at a lower speed. So I'm just going to go back to 0 miles per hour and start from 0. And starting right away, I feel the motor kick in. It's going, and we're at around 8.2 miles per hour. Now we're at 8.6, 8.9, 9, and that was it. So coming to its stop, we're gonna make a left turn in pedal assist number 2. I feel the power kicking in. This one feels a lot faster than 1. We're going 11.5, around 11.5 miles per hour, and then I'll slow down and go to pedal assist number 3. Pedal assist number 3. We're going, and it's hitting 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14.5 miles per hour for the same level of effort. We just hit 14.9, and then I'll slow down, going to pedal assist number 4. You can see how fast it's going. We're already at 15, 16, 16.7, 17 miles per hour, and we can slow down after this, and then we'll slow down. Pedal assist number 5. You can see the speed climbing. We're already at 15 miles per hour, 16, 17. There's a kid in the way, so I need to slow down. And then we're picking it up back to 18, 19 miles per hour. And the road is about to end, so I need to slow down. So right now I'm testing the brakes. I'm just going to go to the max speed of 18, 19 miles per hour that I've hit, and then slam on the brakes. This is not a scientific test. Right now we just stopped halfway between the car. We'll try that again. Over here we stopped right before the front wheel. And this one, we stopped before the front wheel of the Corolla. And just a note that this is the first time I've used these brakes, so they haven't been broken in yet. Once they are broken in, they would stop a lot better, but they seem very good to begin with. Here's a slight incline. This is a single speed bike, which means it has no derailleur. We're stuck at the same gearing, and on this semi-steep hill, I'm still able to climb it around 8 to 9 miles per hour. Starting from a hill, it is more difficult, but the motor kicking in does help, and I'm able to climb it. We're at 7 miles per hour, and it's not going any faster, but I am able to climb it. Overall, I really like the VanPowers CityVanture e-bike. It felt like a single speed on steroids. It's just very sleek and lightweight. It's only 34 pounds. And what I like the most about this e-bike is that it has a Mortise and Tenon joint inspired frame, meaning all of these parts on the frame came disassembled and I had to put them together myself, which I really enjoyed doing. But if you're not like that, if you'd rather pay someone to do it, they offer an option to pay them $90 more and they can assemble it in the factory. It also felt very high quality. I really like this carbon drive belt. It's very unique. I haven't seen a lot of bikes or e-bikes that have it. Most of them have chains, which can eventually rust, but there's also only a single speed, so you're stuck with that single speed. Even though it's single speed, you can't climb the steepest hills, but I was able to climb semi-steep hills with the electric motor. I also liked the hydraulic disc brakes. They're probably one of the best I've ever used on an e-bike in this price range. They just felt very predictable with the hydraulics, and then it felt like they tuned it in the factory and I didn't have to do any adjustments. It just worked and it was very good. I liked how the battery was integrated in this tube, so you can't even see that there is a battery. Even from a distance, you can't really tell that this is an electric bike. This rear hub is all in one, meaning it has the controller, the sensor, and the motor back here. And just overall, it's a very good e-bike. If I were to offer any suggestions, I would have liked to have seen a headlight and a integrated tail light that flashed when you pressed on the brake, and also a thumb lever so you can actually control the motor from the handlebar without pedaling. But I know that they were going for a very simplistic e-bike look for weight savings and just the simplicity. So I think they achieved that very well. So if you're in the market for a single speed on steroids, I would suggest that you check this one out. Pricing and discounts can be found in the description section below. So thank you guys for watching and see you in the next video.